back. Today we're going to talk about solving equations involving fractions and decimals. We're going to outline a couple of strategies for you that are going to help you find what x is, because overall that's our strategy. We're going to get x by itself. Get the variable by itself. We want to get the variable by itself. And we're going to use all those strategies that we've already learned and a couple of extras. Now, this strategy section is going to be divided into two parts. The first one is for decimals. So for decimals, here's our strategy. We're going to multiply by a power of 10 to get rid of all decimals. So we're going to clear these decimals by multiplying by a power of 10. What do I mean by that? So if I look down here in part A, I've got 1.4, 1.8, 2.35, and 0.21. I want to look at the number of decimal places that I have. I have one decimal place, and one here, and two here. So I need a power of 10 that has two decimal places behind it. So that's going to be 100. So multiply by 100. Here's what that looks like. I need to multiply by 100 on both sides. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out kind of this way. 100 times 1.4x minus 1.8 plus 2.35x equals 0.21, and I'm multiplying that side by 100 also, because remember, I must do the same thing to both sides. So what happens when I do this? I'll use a little bit of distributive property here, and you're going to see a couple of things happen that are really actually pretty cool. So I have 100 times 1.4x minus 100 times 1.8 plus 100 times 2.35x equals 0.21 times 100. Well, I know that when I multiply by 100, I'm moving the decimal point two places. So what that looks like is I'm going to move it 2 places. So I know this is going to end up as 140x. Because 1.4 times 100 would be 140. When I move this one, I'm going to end up with minus 180. When I move this one, I'm going to end up with plus 235x equals, and I'm going to move this one 2 places, 21. You see how this works? So what I end up with is an equation with no decimals in it. And this is good because now I can just combine my like terms. I'll circle my 140x, I'll circle my 235x, and I'll put a box around this negative 180. So I have 375x minus 180 equals 21. And this is an equation that I can really solve using pretty simple methods. I'll add 180, trying to get x by itself. So I end up with 375x equals 201, and I'll divide by 375 on both sides, and I'll use my calculator to come up with x is equal to 0.536. Okay? My answer is now a decimal, but I found it by using methods to clear the other decimals. See if you can try B on your own. You should initially try to use a strategy to clear all the decimals. So multiply by a power of 10 to clear all the decimals. Our second strategy is going to be involving fractions. So I'm going to go back up to the top here and say for fractions. And I'll cross out this one little decimal place here so that I don't get confused. So for fractions, multiply by a common denominator. What do I mean by that? I'll look at all the denominators present in the problem, and I'll multiply by a common one. Let's do an example so I can show you here. Let me section this off. I've got 3/10 x equals negative 1/6 x plus 7 over 10. And I'm going to look at 10, 6, and 10 and find a common denominator. Say 60. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 60. So 60 times 3 over 10x equals 60 times minus 1 over 6x plus 7/10. I notice that on this right side I'm going to have a little distributive property here. And so let's look at what this looks like. I'm multiplying fractions, and so I'm going to use 60 over 1 times 3 over 10 times x equals, and on this other side I'm going to have 60 over 1 times minus 1 over 6 plus 60 over 1 times 7 over 10. And you'll recall that when we did this before, we would eliminate some of this numerator denominator stuff so that I didn't have to make it big just to make it small. And so 10 goes into 10 one times, 10 goes into 6 times. So I've got 6 times 3, which is 18x equals, and I'm just going to go down the line. 6 goes into 6 one time, 6 goes into 60 10 times. So this will be negative 10. Got to keep my negative sign. And over here, this is, don't forget that's 60. 60, 10 goes into 60 6 times, goes into 10 once. So I have 6 times 7. And I think I forgot my x in here. Yeah, so this is negative 10x, sorry about that, plus 42. Let's keep track of what we're doing here. All I did was multiply each of the elements in this expression by that 60. And so now I have an equation that is 18x equals negative 10x plus 42. All right? So I'll eliminate the variable from one side. And I'm actually going to scoot up this way. 28x equals 42. Divide by 28. Divide by 28. And I end up with x equals 1 1/2. All right, so that's all there is to it. You're going to clear the fractions by multiplying by a common denominator. And make sure you keep your work straight. All right, let's do a little doctoring on this one. This is actually 2s minus 1 1/4 s equals 1/3. All right, I want you to see if you can do those two examples on your own, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.